لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. He says what means they give preference to themselves. They give preference to others over themselves, despite they themselves being in need. Which basically means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing the believers, describing the good people, as being the people who they have this quality of altruism. Altruism basically meaning that they overcome the innate covetousness that all of us has. The innate desire that whatever we have, we want to hold on to it. We want to keep it for ourselves. And even what we see that other people have, we want to have that too. This is an innate quality in humans. And it's not a good quality. It's a quality which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to strive to overcome, to rein in, to control it, and not to let it control us. So he praises the people who do this by saying, وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ. They have this quality of preferring others to themselves, وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ, even though they themselves are in need. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on to describe this quality and also the benefit of it. He says, وَمَن يُوقَ شُحَّ نَفْسِهِ, in the same verse, and whoever overcomes or is protected from his own covetousness, فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. Those, they are the successful ones. And this is what all of us want. So when we see that, our antenna should go up. What does it take to be successful? Allah is saying that they learn to what? To overcome their innate covetousness. Now this ayah, like many verses in the Quran, it has what we call sabab al-nuzul. It has a precursor to its revelation, an event that happened that prompted the revelation of the verse. And that sabab al-nuzul, the story behind it has been collected by Bukhari and Muslim in their collections of hadith. Abu Hurairah, he mentions that one day the Prophet was in the masjid with his companions and a man came. And he said, Ya Rasulullah, قَدْ أَصَابَنِي الْجُوعُ. He said, O Messenger of Allah, I am very hungry. And this was not uncommon during the time of the Prophet because many of the Prophet's companions were poor. So the man came, he said, I'm hungry, basically saying, can you feed me? Can you give me something to eat? So the Prophet immediately, he went to the house of one of his wives. And he asked them, هل عندكم شيء? Do you guys have anything? And the first wife that he asked said, ما عندي. She said, لا والله ما عندي إلا الماء. She said, no, I swear by Allah, I don't have anything except water. This is the wives of the Prophet. All they had was water. So he went to each one of his wives, one by one, and each one of them said the same thing. Wallahi ma indi illa al-ma. I don't have anything but water. So then the Prophet, unfortunately, he was not in a position at that time to host this man. So he turned to his companions and he said, is there any one of you who will host this man tonight? Immediately one of the Ansari, he said, I will, O Messenger of Allah. Think about that. He didn't go back and ask his wife, do we have food? And then after she said yes, come back and say, I will do it. He immediately said, I will do it. Whatever I have, I will give him, or I'll share with him, or I'll find something. Shows you how quickly the early Muslims were, how keen they were to do good. If the opportunity presented itself, they would hasten to do it. They wouldn't wait for somebody else to beat them to the punch. They wouldn't say somebody else will host him. They hastened to do these good things. These are the early Muslims, and they are our examples. Then on top of that, it shows you how much they wanted the rewards from Allah. They cared about the reward. They were not the people who said, I have enough reward. I'm doing enough good deeds, so I don't need more. So anyway, this man, he goes to his home, and he asks his wife, do you have anything? And she said, La. Illa qut sibyani. He said, I don't have anything except the food I was going to feed to our kids. Which means, I don't even have enough food for you and me. So now, in a situation like that, we would expect, many of us would say, oh, well, sorry, beat feet, brother. Kick rocks. I can't help you. No, this man, he told his wife, he said, Alihim. Distract them. And if they ask for food, no, we need him. Then put them to sleep. Many wives, if they were told that by their husbands, they would say, these are my kids. You're not going to feed some stranger instead of my kids. She didn't say that. She obeyed her husband. Not because her husband said, but because she wanted the reward too. Shows you how far they were willing to go and the sacrifices they were willing to make to get the reward of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So she did what her husband said. And then when she returned, he said, turn out the lamp and pretend that you're eating. Because they didn't have enough for all of them to eat. So she said, turn out the lamp and pretend that you're eating and let our guests eat. And they did. They didn't have enough food for themselves, only enough food for their guests. Their kids went to sleep hungry. They went to sleep hungry. And their guest was fed. This is the definition of the statement of Allah. وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. They prefer others to themselves, even though they themselves are in need. So what happened? When the man went the next day for Salat al-Fajr, the Prophet said, لَقَدْ عَجَبَ اللَّهُ مِنْ سَنِئِكُمَا بِضَيْفِكُمَا اللَّيْلَةَ. He said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was pleased with what you did, which means that Allah spoke to the Prophet about this couple. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? That's an amazing thing. And in some type of inspiration or revelation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke the names of this couple and what they did to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That could be any one of us. If we learn to develop, if we strive against ourselves to develop this quality. وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. And they prefer others over themselves, even though they themselves are in need. And it doesn't mean you have to give everything you have like they did. But we learn to give something. Many of us were called upon to give. For example, help the mosque. Make a pledge. Make a monthly donation. Commit yourself. Lock yourself in by putting your name on a piece of paper. And we say, oh, well, I have this, and oh, well, I have that, and we all have something. We also all can give something. We can give up a Starbucks coffee one day a week. And the money we would spend on that coffee, we can give it to the mosque. وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ. They give precedence to others over themselves. Man, I want that coffee, but you know what? I'm going to give precedence to my mosque, to my community, over myself. You don't have to give up coffee all week. one day a week. We can do that. But we have to train ourselves to do that. And this is the month to do that. The month where our hearts are softer and more inclined to accept Allah's discipline and His guidance. But we have to make some effort. It won't happen without effort. We have to learn that from the shakhsiyat, from the personality of the believer. One of the features of that personality is this ithar, preferring others over yourself, preferring community over you as an individual. It's a critically important quality. What are we praying for? What are we fasting for? To learn these qualities, to develop these qualities, and be better humans outside of Ramadan. And so it's very important for us, ya ikhwan, ya akhwat, to reflect upon these things. Especially in the month of the Jud al-Karam, كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أجود الناس. The Prophet was the most generous of the people. وكان أجود ما يكون في رمضان. He was the most generous he could be in Ramadan. Now, I want to close by saying, or asking the question, what is the age of death? Anybody have an answer? There isn't one, is there? I was just informed that a sister of ours, in the prime of her life, 23 years old, went to sleep and didn't wake up. It can happen at any time. It can happen any time, and the question we have to ask ourselves, are we ready? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ, and spend from what we provide for you, مِنْ قَبْلِ أَنْ يَأْتِيَ أَحَدَكُمُ الْمَوْتِ, before death comes to one of you, فَيَقُولُ, and that person at the time when death comes says, رَبِّ لَوْ لَا أَخَّرْتَنِي إِلَىٰ أَجَلٍ قَرِيبٍ فَأَصَّدَّقَ وَأَكُنْ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. Oh Allah, give me respite. I don't need a lot of time. Just give me a little time so I can give some charity. Oh, they were asking for people to give stuff in the mosque. Oh, just give me 5 minutes so I can put something in the donation box. وَأَكُنْ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. And I'll be from the righteous. I'll do something good. وَلَنْ يُؤَخِّرَ اللَّهُ نَفْسًا إِذَا جَاءَ أَجَلُهَا. Allah will never delay the death of a person once their time to die has come. وَاللَّهُ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ. And Allah is well aware of what you do. Well aware when you could have put your hand in your pocketbook or in your wallet and you chose not to. He's well aware of that. We ask Allah in closing for this sister to have mercy on her soul. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give her the heights of paradise. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to purify her of her sins like a white thobe is purified of dirt. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cleanse her of her sins with water and hail and snow. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give her family the patience that the believer should have when they lose a loved one. And we ask Allah for all the believers that He protects us and prepares us for the time when we die. Amen.